to be here to talk with you tonight about the issues that are impacting our community, answer questions you have, comments, and just engage, right? Those that are not familiar with the NAACP, we are the oldest, the largest, and the best civil rights organization. Throughout this country, every single civil rights fight, you will find us. We have always been there. We will be there throughout this fight and this journey that we are on. So, I'm not going to speak too much tonight because we came here to get the Congresswoman. But before we get to the Congresswoman, I want to introduce the chair of our Religious Affairs Committee, also the pastor of Mosby Memorial Baptist Church, Pastor Price Davis.
Good evening, my beloved community. It is with deep gratitude and heartfelt joy that I welcome you to Mosby Memorial Baptist Church for this timely important town hall gathering. We do not take lightly the sacredness of space where we stand here, where the people of God and leaders of our land come together, not for division, but for dialogue, not for rhetoric, but for relationship. We are honored to have and welcome and be a part of our church here for a moment, Congresswoman Jennifer Mcclellan, a servant leader who has long exemplified what it means to lead with compassion, conviction, and courage. Congresswoman, we thank you for your presence tonight and for your ongoing commitment to justice, equity, and the well-being of our communities. Your work reminds us that politics at its best is a ministry of service. Here at Mosby, our mission is clear. We are steadfast in creating a caring community with God's people by leading, listening, loving, learning, while launching into our future. And this is not just a phrase that we recite each and every week. It's a calling that we live. Leading with moral clarity and spiritual courage. Listening to one another with empathy and openness. Loving across boundaries with grace and compassion. Learning from each other's stories and perspectives. Leaning on our faith in times of struggle. And launching into our future that is rooted in hope and healing. In a national climate that feels increasingly negative, diminishing, and even destructive, we gather tonight with a different kind of a posture. One of care, one of community, and constructive hope. We acknowledge the realities of job insecurity, challenges with immigration, the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the deep yearning across the land for stable leadership rooted in justice. So tonight, as we gather in this space, we are here to listen, to learn, to speak. And may we do so with a spirit of unity, a spirit of dignity and possibility. And before we turn it over into the hands of Congresswoman Jennifer Mcclellan, let us open up with a word of prayer. Amen? Amen. Let us pray. Eternal and ever-loving God, we come before you tonight as a gathered community, diverse in voice, united in purpose, and deeply aware of our need for your presence in these challenging times. Thank you for the gift of this day, for the grace of gathering, and for the opportunity to engage in civic reflection rooted in love, justice, and care. God, we are mindful relations, our conversations frayed by distrust, and many hearts weighed down by fear, frustration, and fatigue. Yet we come tonight not to be dismayed, but God, we are determined not to despair, but to deepen our commitment to one another and to the future that you are calling us to build. We thank you for Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan, for her leadership, her labor, her love for the people that she serves. Grant her continued wisdom and endurance, surround her with the support, and sustain her spirit as she stands on the front lines of policy and advocacy for the people. We pray, oh God, for those in our communities who have lost jobs and are struggling to make ends meet, for those navigating systems that often marginalize and exclude, for immigrant families seeking safety and stability, for children whose dreams need protection, for elders whose stories hold wisdom, and for all who cry out for justice, belonging, and peace. May this moment, God, be more than a meeting. May it be a movement. A movement of truth-telling, a movement of bridge building, a movement of moral clarity and spiritual courage. God, guide us and lead us with integrity. Teach us to listen with humility. Inspire us to love with boldness. Equip us to learn with open hearts. Help us lean on you and on one another when the journey grows weary. And empower us to launch into our future, not with fear, but with faith, not with silence, but with solidarity. Let this evening's dialogue spark vision. Let it stir conviction, and let it plant seeds of transformation, not just in the sanctuary, but in the streets, in the schools, in the halls of government, in every place where your people live. We ask all of this in your matchless and mighty and merciful name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Davis. Now you'll see why you're the chairman. So we're about to bring up the Congresswoman. I just want to make sure that everyone understands how the flow will go tonight. Congresswoman will of course come up. If you have a question for her, I hope everyone got a raffle ticket. If you did not, please go back to the table. We'll be happy to give you one. To be random, to be as fair as possible, we will pull the raffle tickets out, say the number, come up, ask the question if you have one. If you do not have a question, that's fine, we'll move on to the next one. If you have a question that you would like to ask, but you may not want to do it in public, feel free to write it down on an index card. We will collect them. On the index card, write your question, contact information, and someone will absolutely follow up to give you the answer that you seek. So, everybody clear on that? Okay. So, without further delay, I would like to welcome up the Congresswoman from the 4th District here in Virginia, Congresswoman Jennifer.
Thank you for that. It warms my heart, that reception. First of all, I want to thank Martha and the Henrico NAACP for hosting tonight's forum. I want to thank Pastor Davis first for that wonderful opening prayer, but also for opening up the sanctuary, and to everyone here at Mosby Memorial who helped make this happen. And I want to thank and introduce my staff, because I cannot do this job, which I love very much, without their support. And so, even though they're working, I'm going to shout them out for a minute. So first, we have Charity Howe, my district director. She keeps everything. Who portfolio, but basically every issue that you call, every federal agency we divide up among the staff. And every constituency group you can think of, we divide up amongst the staff. So whatever it is, one of these people are going to answer it. So then we have, take pictures, Bianca Casper here. We have Bob in the back taking pictures as well. We have Courtney Ricardo out front, directing folks. We have Lorraine Campbell, who normally is with us, but she is on maternity leave. We had to basically force her to go home. And not with us tonight, I don't think, is Sylvia Copeland, who handles things in the southern part of the district. She lives down that way. But they all, if you have an issue, and I want to start with this, if you have an issue with a federal agency, or a federal issue, or there's a community event that you want to invite me to, or have a presence, if you have a resource fair where you want to have my office have a table, these are the folks that you call. And having them show up is just as good as having me show up. I'm only one person, I cannot be everywhere. And this Congress, they have us in Washington more often than usual. Typically, we are there 2 or 3 weeks out of the month, and we're in the district for at least 1 week, sometimes 2, for recess, what we call an in-district work period. But they keep us busy up there right now. So when you don't see me, if you see my staff, that's just as good as seeing me. And for some of you, this is the first time that you see me in person, so I kind of want to start very quickly with just a why am I here? Why did I run for Congress? Why did I choose this life? Some people think, why are you crazy? But I'm here because of my parents. I'm here because I grew up as a little history nerd in Wetumpka, Virginia, right outside of Petersburg. They worked at Virginia State. My dad is a professor. My mom ran the TRIO programs, which are federally funded programs that help first-time college students, at-risk college students, to get to college and then succeed. My dad was also a pastor at a little church, Westminster Presbyterian. They grew up during the Depression. They grew up under Jim Crow. They saw the best of government, and they saw the worst of government. They saw it at its best. Government is a force that helps people and solves problems. They saw that at its worst, government is a source that oppresses some for the benefit of others. And I learned their stories. It sparked a love of history that sent me down many rabbit holes learning the history of this country. And that made me want to be a part of making government that force for good. I didn't think that meant I'd be in Congress. Right. I thought that meant I'd get other people elected and maybe I'd work behind the scenes. I actually went to law school wanting to work for a congressional committee as a lawyer. But ultimately, I heard the call to serve. I ran for the House of Delegates 20 years ago this year. Spent 11 years in the House, about 7 in the Senate. And then when Donald Keachin passed away, this seemed like the best way for me to continue my service and help. So I ran. In the 118th Congress, I hit the ground running. By the time I got there were only 4 committees left. I had my pick of the 4. And I served on the Armed Services Committee, focusing a lot on sea power, on our Navy, our Coast Guard, our Marines, and making sure that they were ready, that they, more importantly though, that the quality of life of our service members, our military families, was as good as they deserved, given that they were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to protect our country. I also served on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. I loved both of those. But this Congress, I asked to be on the Energy and Commerce Committee. which I am. Energy and Commerce is the oldest committee in Congress. It has the widest jurisdiction. It's everything from healthcare to energy to technology to sports to TV, you name it. If one of the former chairs used to say, if it moves, it's energy. If it doesn't, it's commerce. Another chair used to point at a map of the globe and he said, this is our jurisdiction. So you name it, it comes through that committee. On that committee, I am on the Energy Subcommittee, and I'm on the Communications and Technology Subcommittee, but I also spend a lot of time on healthcare issues because a lot of my background in the state legislature were on those issues. I came to Congress with a whole list of proactive things that I wanted to do that I think boils down to maybe 3 things. In my time in public service, representing rural areas, representing urban and suburban areas, Democrats, Independents, Republicans, what I have found is everybody basically wants 3 or 4 things. They want to know that their kids are going to get a good education and the opportunity to do better than they did. They want to know that they're going to get a fair shot at a job and compensation that meets their needs and a little bit more. They want to know they live in safe, healthy communities. And they want to know if they get sick, they get the care that they need and not go bankrupt. And I think the bulk of what I do and the bulk of my priorities fall in making sure that everybody has those things. That's challenging right now. That's challenging right now. And what's really different this Congress from my first term, when the first thing I did was put my hand on my dad's Bible, in which he kept his poll tax receipt. That is the Bible I took my oath of office on March 7th, 2023, and on January 3rd, 2025. And in my oath of office, the very first thing I said, I do solemnly swear to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's my number one job. Then it says, and to faithfully execute the duties of my office. My number one job, before I get to making sure that every child has a good education, before I get to making sure that everybody lives in safe and healthy communities, before I get to making sure you have access to the health care you need, is to preserve and protect the Constitution of the United States, all of it. From we the people, through all of the amendments, including, oh, by the way, the 28th, which was ratified, is just not being recognized. That's the ERA, for those who haven't followed. And that's challenging right now. Fulfilling my constitutional oath of office is challenging. And I know a lot of the questions that we get are going to get to that, so I'm not going to preempt that because I really do want to get to your questions. But this job, before I do anything else, I just want to say thank you. Because this job is the honor of a lifetime. In this job, if I never pass another piece of legislation again, the work that I do with my staff in solving your problems, if I never do another piece of legislation again, that brings me satisfaction and makes it worth having to drive up and down 95 twice a week. You know, missing my kids, some of my kids' school things. I'm going to miss my daughter's actual birthday next week. We're celebrating this weekend. I said, don't worry, she's happy. And the last thing I'll say before I get to your questions, because I think it's really important. I don't know who all is in this room. I don't know who you voted for, and frankly, I don't care. 20 years in public service has taught me everybody's political views, their views on issues, their views on bills, their views on political candidates are shaped by their life experiences and what they know. And when you elected me, you brought a nerdy little girl who grew up in Chesterfield County, the daughter of civil rights leaders and educators, who had to fight for the right to participate in a government by, of, and for the people. A woman who almost died in childbirth, who is a mom and a wife and still a nerd, who wakes up every day bringing all of my family's history to bear, and a deep understanding of our country's history. I bring all of that to bear to ask one question every day: how can I help the people of the 4th District and beyond today? And so with that, I'm ready to answer your questions. A couple more ground rules really quickly. We're not going to get to all of them, because I do got to go home tonight. I got to eat and I got to put my kids to bed. So if we do not get to your question, please, if you want us to answer it, submit it on the card, turn it in, we will get you an answer. Or you can reach out on the website at Mcclellan, submit it through the website. Please be respectful of everybody's time. Keep your questions, reasonably short. If you have a statement, get to your question quickly, because we want to answer as many as we can. And I think what we said is we're going to do to keep this fair and random, we're going to do the drawing. And we have some already pulled. So with that, I'm ready to take your question.
9011. 9011. All right.
Okay, they can't hear you, so give them to me and I'll come. Yeah, thank you for that. What was the first one? 9011. 901, okay. We got 9038. Okay. Somebody have a mic? Yes. It's coming. And if you would please, if you're comfortable, state your name.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Wilson, and the question that I have tonight is that over 100% of our black boys in Henrico County has been funneled from the school to prison pipeline, which has been going on in this county for over a decade. And I can't understand why nothing has been implemented in place to protect our children, even under IDEA.
Thank you for your question. That is an issue that I have grappled with since I was in the General Assembly. And at the state level, we did pass some laws, some of which I carry, to address that. And there are two that I will point out, because this is mostly a state issue, not exclusively, but mostly a state and local issue. The first was, we saw based on, first I got a bill passed that required school divisions to report suspension and disciplinary data and referrals to law enforcement, so that we could see the data of who was getting and not. Once we got that data, we started to see that a lot of kids were being charged with crimes for things that when I was a kid, I got sent to the principal's office. Or they were being suspended and expelled from school for little things like singing a rap song on a bus. So we passed a bill to eliminate the crime of disorderly conduct at a school or school-sponsored event. And we passed another one that would limit long-term suspension and expulsion, which is usually the first step down that path, for young kids. If Henrico is still, and they were at the time, almost 20 years ago, they were pretty high up in the disparity. If that is still the case, then that is something that we need to work with the school board the superintendent and the General Assembly to fix, and we can help work with you to connect to figure out specifically what's the data in Henrico and what we need to do about it. Thank you. Give me two this way, so bear with us. So there are people. All right. Thank you. Okay. 9045. Yes.
My question to you, this might, I hope it doesn't bring out a lot of emotion in people who want to stay grounded and they ask a question. So what can we do specifically in our community right now to fight for our
Ultimate, and it's at risk. I'm not gonna lie, it's at risk. But ultimately, it's gonna come down to the courts and the people. So there are a lot of lawsuits going on right now on just about every issue you can think of where the current administration has overstepped its authority. Pick an organization, the NAACP is one of them, but whatever issue you care about, there's an organization that is working on it from a legal perspective, and you can support their efforts. If any of you have been impacted by something that the administration is doing, you can submit your story on my website. If you're a federal employee who's been fired, if you have personally been impacted by cuts, we're collecting those stories and we're helping to get them to organizations that can file lawsuits, because we have to have somebody who has standing. What that means is the court says you have to be affected by it. I cannot sue on behalf of Congress. Only the speaker can, and he's not. So you can support organizations that are fighting in the courts. If you are not happy with what your elected representatives are doing, you need to tell them. If you want them to do something different, you need to tell them, which is why I'm here. I was not the only one invited tonight, but I'm here. And so I would say, even if you agree, because all of the calls I get to my office on a daily basis, I get a report that says, these are the top, every day, every week, and cumulatively, I get a list that says, these are the issues that people are calling for. And it helps me to be able to say, this is not what my people want. And I look at what other districts are getting, and compare that with sort of polling and other data to say, this is not what people vote for. So make your voice heard. The number one thing you can do is vote in every election. From president to school board and everything in between, and this year, we've got beauty of elections every year in Virginia. So those are just a few of the things that you can do, and then you can protest. But again, I'm going to caution you on that, because I know some things that keep me up at night. And one of them is, we currently have a president who asked the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 2020, General Mcclellan, can I send the Army and the National Guard out and order them to shoot protesters? And General Mcclellan said, well, no, sir, you cannot. But there is something called the Insurrection Act. And that was an insurrection, but there is a law that if the president declares an insurrection is taking place, If he then deploys the military to put that insurrection down, that is a lawful order. And I've had conversations with General Milley about this. So there is a reason why Dr. King's movement focused on peaceful, nonviolent protests. It was twofold. One, they already knew, let's not give them a reason to get violent with us. But number two, they knew public sentiment would turn if they got violent. Whoever gets violent first, that's who public sentiment usually turns against. So be mindful if you protest, be mindful. If you break the law while protesting, be ready for the consequences. Dr. King was, they trained, and I went to the American History Museum a couple weeks ago. They trained on how to deal with whatever was coming and whatever consequences were coming, lawful or not, they were prepared for it. So if you're gonna protest, make sure you are prepared for whatever consequences might come. All right, that was very heavy, so let me. All right, 9069. 9069. Okay. These two are a little political, and let me just, the NAACP is a nonpartisan organization, and I'm here in my official capacity. But I'm gonna read the question. Republicans always frame the narrative. What are Democrats doing to change this? That's actually a pretty good question. I told you I'm a nerd. I've done a lot of digging into the data about what happened in the 24 elections. And I think part of the story that not a lot of people are focused on is where people get their information shaped how they vote. Who remembers when the only way to get the message was 3 TV stations, 2 newspapers, and a couple of radio stations, right? We're not in that world anymore. We're not in that world anymore. Do you know what the #1 TV station is right now? No. YouTube. The #1 TV station is YouTube. So part of what Republicans were very good at is for the past 4 years figuring out where are people getting their information. Now let me go dominate that medium. Democrats were behind. So for 4 years, Republicans were pumping out a message on everything from Reddit to Fox News to you name it. Democrats weren't. And so that's really why they framed the message, is because they're the ones that people are hearing their message. And by the time they hear Democrats' message, it's too late. So we're working on that. But that's actually a really good question. Now this one I'm not gonna say the Democrat Republican. I'm just gonna say, what are you doing to stop efforts to destroy Social Security? And I imagine a lot of questions about that. So I'm very worried about Social Security. You paid that money to have a guaranteed retirement account. Social Security was created in response to the Depression because nobody was saving back then. When the stock market crashed and everybody, including my grandfather, lost what wealth they had, he wasn't in the stock market, but it affected what he was doing. Congress said, well, we need a safety net. But it's not a handout. It is your money that you have been putting into the system to guarantee. Now, for too long, way before I got there, Congress was borrowing money from that savings account to do other things. Well, now you got a whole lot of people, from boomers, retiring. Gen X, I'm Gen X, we're about to retire, and it's putting a strain on the system. There are efforts right now to either raise the retirement age or make it harder for you to get your money. So last week, they changed, you can no longer make changes to your Social Security account through the mail. Theoretically, you can show up in the office to do that, but they're closing some offices. Theoretically, you can do it online, but sometimes the website is down. If you try to call, because they fired a lot of people, you're gonna wait for like an hour. So, and we're waiting to see proposals. And I'm gonna throw two procedural words at you. I'm gonna try not to get too in the weeds. We're currently in one budget cycle that ends September 30th. And I think what DOGE is doing is, right now, on everything, it's not just Social Security, everything you see DOGE doing right now is how can we grab money that Congress appropriated for X, Y, and Z to do what we want to do with it, which is make the tax cuts that were given to billionaires in the first Trump administration permanent. So that's happening now. What is about to happen is within the next 2 weeks, the president's going to send down a bill. You may hear this in the news, something called rescission. It's just a fancy word to say, I'm sending you a bill that says these cuts that I've already made, you were going to ratify. We haven't seen what that bill is. Once we see it, we've got like 45 days to act on it. I don't think they're going to do anything with Social Security because they understand how popular it is. But we're also planning the budget for the year that starts October 1st. They are trying to find, I think, $1.5 trillion in cuts in federal services, on top of raising the debt ceiling $4 trillion so that they can pay for those tax cuts. The Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan, has said you can't get those cuts without touching Medicaid, Social Security, and Medicare. And the Republicans keep saying, well, we're not going to do that. And it's like, okay, that math doesn't math. Show me your plan. But again, if you don't want anybody to touch your Social Security, let them know. You're already letting me know, keep it up. Let everybody else know. And all your friends who agree, the hands off my Social Security, they need to call their member of Congress and tell them that. All right. 9063. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Liz Myers, and we've already heard about this increasingly unlawful administration. It's attacking our economy, stripping away our rights, and destroying our democracy. And we've talked about that, so I won't go on about it, but we all know we're upset. One of the things, and DOGE is a big part of that, and one of the pieces that I know we've been involved with, and the Democrats have been involved with, in trying to combat what DOGE is doing is the Taxpayer Data Protection Act. So I wanted to ask you about the status of it, because I understand it was introduced, but I don't know if it's been passed or not, and how it could help us with what DOGE is doing to interfere with our personal data in the Treasury Department, Social Security, and now the NLRB.
Thank you for that. So the bill that she referenced was filed. I'm a co-sponsor, and it basically would prohibit not just Elon Musk and DOGE, but any unelected, unvetted, unconfirmed by Congress person from gaining access to your personal financial data, whether it's your Social Security numbers, whether it's your bank account numbers, all of that. They wouldn't be able to access it, and if they access it, they wouldn't be able to take it, steal it, monetize it, or do anything else. That bill has not, it basically was filed and it's just sitting. It has not been sent to a committee, and it probably won't be. So that's majority rules, unfortunately. The speaker decides what committee bills go to. that committee decides when they're heard. The one tool we have is something called a discharge petition, where if we get 218 people to sign that petition for a particular bill, it will bypass the committee and come directly to the floor. We can't get it. We have 215 Democrats. And so far, we need 3 Republicans to sign on to anything. And right now, none of them have. And so that's where that stands right now. But we're gonna keep fighting, and we're gonna keep trying. Okay, 9071. 907. Okay. 9023. Yes. Just come. Oops.
Thank you, Michelle Palmer. So I am a federal worker, Bob was. I'm told that we showed up last week.
I'm sorry.
I work for the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. It had 13 staff. There were 13 plus $4 million budget. So not saving anybody money. And I had to sign a contract to be able to get severance where I can't even talk about what they're not letting us do, right? But they're not saving money. What are you guys doing?
So first, thank you for your service. At a minimum, and this is the bare minimum, but I do want to make sure we get your story. We are collecting stories of individual federal employees that have been either fired or frankly bullied, who are still there but are being bullied. And so please make sure you share your story either with my staff tonight or through the website. Most of these cuts are illegal. So there are lawsuits and there are worker organizations. I know AFG is the one that comes to mind. I don't know if they represent you all, but they are filing lawsuits on behalf of the employees. I have a bill that unwinds the cuts to Health and Human Services, and there are other members that have bills to unwind cuts to other individual agencies. But again, those bills probably aren't going to pass. The biggest thing that I can do as your Congresswoman is raise the alarm of what is happening and how it is impacting the people. And so I want to make sure that you and I stay in touch so that I can do that. And then connect you with folks to see if there is a lawsuit for your specific agency. If not, do we need to get it going? I know at the state level, they are looking at ways to make sure you are eligible for unemployment, because and I don't know if this is your case, and you probably can't tell me based on that contract you signed. I do know there are federal employees who, the way they were fired, they don't have documentation that they can take to the unemployment office to get unemployment. And we are working with them to make sure that they can get unemployment. And to give you one example, there was a woman at the VA hospital who showed up for work, who could not log into her computer. She called her boss. She's like, have I been fired? He's like, no, I would know. Call IT. When she called IT, she found out she was fired. This was a Monday. On Friday, she got an email that said, you're being terminated. Your access to your account will be terminated in 15 minutes. She could not access that email. We got it for for, but she could not access that email to prove that she was on fire, so she was eligible for unemployment. And I literally get texts from federal employees that say, help us. What this administration is doing to our civil servants is dehumanizing, it is cruel, it is outrageous. And we are fighting. But at the end of the day, I need y'all to fight too. I need y'all to fight for her and everybody like her by, again, calling me is good, making sure you're calling the people who live in other districts are calling too, and we will get this sorted. Okay. All right, I'm going to try to summarize. I'm sure there are a lot of questions about Medicare and Medicaid. So I told you that I'm on Energy and Commerce, that the budget plan that the House and Senate Republican, not a single Democrat voted for it, has told the Energy and Commerce Committee to go find $880 billion in cuts. There is no way Energy and Commerce gets to $880 billion without cuts to Medicaid. I've been saying that from day one. Some of my colleagues have said, well, our budget plan doesn't have the word Medicaid in it. We're not done. Now the good news is some of our Republican colleagues have said, and Rob Whitman and Jennifer Kiggins are two of them, have signed a letter that says we will not vote for a budget that cuts Medicaid for vulnerable populations. But they say, you know, Medicaid, when it was originally created, was for pregnant women, low-income pregnant women up to the first 6 weeks after birth, very sick children, long-term care. And they spelled that out in their letter. Here's what they didn't mention. Under the Affordable Care Act, we expanded Medicaid to cover more low-income people. Virginia did too. If there are cuts to Medicaid, under Virginia law, everybody, all 600,000 Virginians who are part of the expansion population lose their health insurance. Because the state budget said if we lose the federal funding, we gotta unwind it. Mr. Whitman and Ms. Kiggins didn't say anything about that. So this is coming to a head soon because they say they want Energy and Commerce to do our budget work on May 7th. So by May 7th, we will see what their plan is. And we'll have a concrete plan. I've heard they might try to put work requirements on. That sounds good, but usually when they do that, it basically requires you to jump through a whole lot of paperwork hoops. And if you don't, you can't get coverage. We've heard they may cut Medicaid reimbursement rates to providers. If you do that, a lot of them won't take Medicaid patients anymore because they can't afford it. And so I don't have the specifics of what they're going to do, but I know as sure as I'm standing here, they cannot get to $880 billion without some cuts to Medicaid, and I am going to fight them tooth and nail.
Hi, my name is Lisa Smith. Can you?
Wait, hold on. I'm going to get you the microphone. Where are you?
I can talk loud. The $12 million grant cut for the water, to fix the water system. Can you speak to that or?
Okay, so y'all probably didn't hear, and I know people online didn't. So one of the cuts that have been made, there was a grant that the city of Richmond was supposed to get to help improve the water treatment plant infrastructure. The justification for it, that is a Homeland Security sort sort of natural disaster related grant. And the Secretary of Homeland Security said, well, that's not directly related to a natural disaster. But you want to make sure in the middle of a natural disaster that your water works and is clean. And that sewer system, that water treatment facility is 101 years old. And we saw what happened in January. So Senator Warner, Senator Kane, and I have signed on a letter asking them, they withdrew that, and then there's another project in Portsmouth. So, and Bobby Scott, we all signed a letter asking them to reinstate those grants. Haven't heard anything yet, but we're gonna continue fighting for that.
Thank you.
I can't remember if this was you or something. Were you 7?
Yes, 9070, yeah.
All right. 9042. 9042. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be photographed because I'm a federal employee, I'm being bullied.
Okay.
I'll be bullied. I'm gonna go with something hopeful, because I wrote my questions down, and I'll just leave them, you can answer them later, 'cause, you know. So I'm gonna go with, because I gotta lighten the mood a little bit.
Thank you.
So we'll leave the heavy stuff later. Once the insurrectionist felon and his trafficking, what do you call it, insider trading, future convicts, how difficult will it be if, I mean, I think I remember growing up saying, you know, I'm just a bill and I'm only a bill, but executive order, at some point when the insurrectionist convict felon leaves, because he's going to go. And I want to get with the pastor about Psalm, I think it's 119. But my question is, how will we be able to reverse some of the chaos and confusion that they are obviously doing to distract us from other stuff? Yeah.
It'll be hard, but I believe we will. And so 2 things. I'm gonna get real deep, I know, but I'm gonna try to keep it hopeful. Because I do have hope. The history, now I'm gonna share some history with you. You knew it was coming. The history of this country has been, how do we reconcile the ideals upon which we were founded with the reality upon which we were founded? The ideals upon which we were founded, which turned 250 years old, were revolutionary. It was the first time that a government said, we derive our power from the people, not from a monarch, not from God anointing somebody with a crown and then it passing through their descendants. Power comes from the people, based on the notion that everyone is granted by their Creator with rights. It can't be taken away by government. That was revolution. Nobody had ever seen that before. And for 250 years, the story of our country has been, how do we make that true for everybody? Now, we've made progress. I would not stand here as the first Black woman elected to Congress from Virginia if we didn't make progress. But every time we have made progress, there's been backlash. And that backlash involves 3 things. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Propaganda, violence, voter suppression. We're in the backlash. But like every other backlash, we've come out of it. And we've come out of it stronger. We've come out of it better. So yes, I'm upset. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I'm devastated. But I'm fighting the same fights as my parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents. But I fight them from a position of more strength and power than they ever dreamed, and so do you. And we fight these fights so that our children, our grandchildren don't have to. But if they do, they fight from a position of more power and strength. And you know, you got a preacher's kid at a pulpit with a microphone, kind of in front of the pulpit, right after Resurrection Sunday. And I thought a lot about this. We had to get through the crucifixion to get to the resurrection. We had to get through the wilderness to get to the promised land. Whatever your faith tradition, if you have one, and if you don't, that's fine. But you gotta go through to get to. So maybe what America had to get through was this to get to the reality of our ideals being true forever. And that's what keeps me. That, and I told you I was at the African American Museum, and then I'm gonna get off my take the preacher hat off, but as in the African American History Museum, you go down to the bottom, and you go up, and it goes from before 1609 to today. And in the section on the Middle Passage, I said to myself, somebody survived this so that I could be here to tell their story. Somebody survived the Middle Passage so that I could stand before you and fight efforts to roll back the progress we have made since then. And that gives me hope. And that tells me we are going to come through this stronger as a country. But it's going to be painful. And it's going to require us coming together. And the last, one more, and then I'll get back. I went to the inauguration. I sat in the rotunda on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And all I could hear was a question that Dr. King asked in the final year of his life. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? Well, chaos has been unleashed. We are in chaos. But if we stay focused and working together, we will come out of chaos and build community. But only if we come together. And that is why every backlash includes the propaganda to tear us apart. And we cannot let it. We cannot let it. Okay, 9009. 9009. Okay, I'm sorry. 9047. This one, okay.
I think the damage has already been done, and I think that my Medicaid is down the tubes. And I think that DOGE made cuts to my EDU grant, so I'm unemployed. Can we recover? That's the question.
We can and we will, and we gotta work together and we gotta do it. And everybody here has got to come out, in May, in November, in June, and vote. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. I mean, you wouldn't show up on a Tuesday, whatever it is, Wednesday. You wouldn't show up on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon if you weren't committed, but you all have friends and family and spheres of influence. I'm fixated on a study that I just saw that divides the world into news seekers and news receivers. My guess is you all are all news seekers. You proactively go seek the news somewhere. But a growing number of people our news receivers. They get it through Reddit or dinner conversations or, non-traditional ways. You all are all influencers. Probably all of you are on social. Probably all of you, hopefully, have friends and family that you still talk to, even if they disagree with you. If you've stopped talking to them, pick up the phone, because that's part of the problem. Part of the problem is social media has allowed us to go back into our tribes and only talk to people who agree with us. That breaks down community. So we will recover if we all work together in our own sphere of influence to do so. And I'm gonna do my part. But I need each of you all to do yours too. All right, you were 4-7? Were you 4-7? Okay. I'm gonna break the rules and I'm gonna do 9049. Don't make me
I knew I shouldn't have forgotten my hearing. What I see coming on Social Security is they're talking about people that are 80 reporting to their Social Security office, even though this idiot's closed 6 out of 10 regional offices. So, but I don't hear that. I hear them address raise the age to 70. I don't want. Who wants to work when they're 70?
Thank you.
That or cut benefits. Why don't we do the proactive thing and get rid of that cap on Social Security? All these CEOs and corporations, they're paid for January 1st. That's why their bonuses come in April, so they don't have to pay Social Security taxes on it. Why don't we get rid of that cap? And then billionaires would have to pay 6.5%. And so would their company. I'll guarantee you, bonuses come down, stock options come down, and Social Security will be fully funded. These rich people don't care about us. They just don't. It's a number for them to compete with each other. And as long as we have this Alzheimer's patient in the White House, it's not going to get any better. I have a military base down in Hopewell. And what he's doing, the military's ridiculous. He's got a clown running. I've got farmers down in my area. And this guy's not doing anything for farmers. People in Nebraska and Iowa are begging migrants to come back. They're not going back there. I want to know why he doesn't raid the 4 meat processing places in this country. He doesn't go near them because he's been bought off by the big 4 that do all the meat processing in this country. So shipping migrants away or making them disappear off the street isn't helping. Wait till you see the price of vegetables and fruits in the next 3 months. This can't keep going on. He can't keep firing people that give us that get out our checks for Social Security, that educate our kids, that defend us. So when is Speaker Jeffries and all the rest of the Democrats going to start raising Cain?
We are. And again, part of the problem, I had a teletown hall, 11,000 people. And I had a gentleman say to me, and to put that in context, normally I get 5. And there was a gentleman, he's like, well, ma'am, I never see you anywhere. And I'm like, well, I was on all 3 local networks this week. But you're not watching the news. It's like, part of it is we are very behind. We're catching up, and we're not, we're working, but sir, I can't tell you when I had a day off. I've been on, pitching media, I've been on social. If you're not following me, please do. I've been on the radio, I've been doing newsletters, I've been doing everything humanly possible to sound the alarm on all these issues that we've talked about, and some we haven't gotten to yet.
Well, right now you're negotiating a budget.
I'm not negotiating anything, they're not talking to me.
These guys negotiated the last budget, and then they pull away from it.
That's
And say, "We're
part
not
of
doing
why
it."
they're not talking to us.
So they don't negotiate in
Right.
good faith.
Right.
So when they come to the Democrats ought to tell them to pound salt.
We have. But listen. This isn't all hands on deck moments, okay? If y'all don't remember anything else, I am using, and the 215 Democrats, I wish if we had Speaker Jeffries, we wouldn't be in this mess. He's not Speaker. He's not Speaker. We are using every tool in our toolbox to fight. But math is math. And we need 218 votes to get anything done in the House. We are at 215, actually 214 because we had somebody die. Okay? So, and the governor of Texas, when the governor of Texas scheduled that special election for November. So we had 214. We need 4 Republicans right now to get a spot. And to get anything done legislatively. But we are using every tool in our toolbox, including working with people to get to the courts. Because the two things that are until we get 218, the two things that can stop this are the courts and you, the people. And what I have seen is when he gets enough pushback, he retreats. When they get enough pushback, the Republicans say, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have touched this. And so we are doing our part, but we can't do it alone. And so part of what I'm here for is to say, keep up what you're doing, but get everybody you know engaged, because your friends that say, well, I don't do politics, politics does you. So everything that he's doing, these tariffs, everything. I'm going to tour Lego tomorrow. They're the first people to call me. Your Legos prices are going up. He's talking about will he, won't he put tariffs on pharmaceuticals, prescription, your drugs are going to go up. Your groceries are going to go up. Oh, by the way, China, we've been in a not quite Cold War with China. What has kept us from being in a Cold War with China is how interconnected economically we were. They are so happy about what he's doing right now, because who do you think is negotiating with Brazil to send soybeans that they used to get from America? So everything is impacted by these tariffs. But you know why he pulled back on some of them? Because the people, right, the bond market. The bond market. And, exactly. But they also, Republicans started speaking up because they were like, well, not only that, I'm catching heck because I'm not gonna curse in church. But it's like, I'm catching heck because I'm not doing anything. So they're starting to push back. But they're also afraid. And they need to be more afraid of their constituents than they are Donald Trump and Donald Trump. Okay, 9064. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Neil Prettyman. I'm going to start with a bit of an example first that illustrates a
point to my question. This week, Robert Kennedy Jr. Has made another in a series of blatantly inaccurate statements regarding autism, referring to autistic folks as people who will never grow up to have a job, write a poem, play baseball, pay taxes, use a bathroom unassisted. I'm an autistic adult, I can do all of those things, and you do all of those things. That's the biggest round of applause I'll ever receive for being Thank you. Beyond the ignorant remarks regarding who we are, yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago, I can't recall at this point, the HHS reached an agreement to share data. I forget the exact agencies, but I'm sure you're aware. Share data regarding autistic Americans, all of us. Personal data that is very invasive, not just medical records, private insurance claims, even data from smart devices like wearable fitness watches. And it's unclear the level of transparency of that data. He's also making a registry of every autistic person in America, presumably for research purposes. Now, this is a man who believes vaccines cause autism, which science has debunked. I already said earlier, the person appointed to lead the research is also very problematic. He was disbarred from practicing medicine in Maryland because he practiced without a license. He set up a committee to approve his research that was based on his friends and family to do experiments on autistic children. It's all incredibly alarming stuff and harkens back to the beginning of the stages of eugenics. Thank you. So, I guess, that's concerning what are they doing to fight that, but on a larger level, I guess my concern is, what is the Democratic Party doing to fight on a systemic level the fact that we are living in two different realities as political parties, and that the right does not negotiate, participate on the same reality and the same set of facts that we understand the facts to be. How do we combat that if they're not logical, rational, etc.?
A little bit like a broken record, but a lot of it is us raising the alarm of exactly what you're talking about on all of these issues, of us catching up with the communications gap, and you sort of using forums like this and using the connections that we build here to make sure that it's not just us fighting back, but you all are fighting with us. And so on every issue we've talked about, we're working on that and making sure, the Democrats on Energy and Commerce, we've asked for Kennedy to come to a hearing. He hadn't yet. And the chair of the committee is the one that decides what hearing gets held and who gets to come. So we are starting to do some shadow hearings and going out into the community and talking directly to the American people about these issues. So stay tuned for that. But these stories are very helpful. And that's why, again, if anybody has been impacted by anything that the Trump administration or the federal government has done, sharing your stories with us gives me ammunition to help fight back. And so I want to thank you again for doing that, and we'll keep it up. Okay, the in the Henrico School Division, the dropout rate for special education is consistently above the state average. In the 2023-24 school year, it was 13.4%. This January, the U.S. Department of Education and the Virginia Department of Education reached an agreement dealing with special education. Can you suggest a specialist in this area that we can contact so parents and students know their rights and what is happening to the federal funds for special education? So I got more bad news. The president signed an executive order which is not lawful, to disband the Department of Education. They fired over half of the workforce, and the two divisions hit the hardest, which is the bulk of what the department does, are the folks that do with special education in the Civil Rights Division, and the folks that do the sort of student loan grants, higher ed, to help at-risk students be able to afford and go to college and stay in college and succeed. They claim that the services performed by those people and the funding will just go to other agencies, specifically for special ed to the Department of Health and Human Services. Yes, that was my reaction, those of you that laughed. Oh, by the way, I don't know what qualifications they have to deal with special needs students or students with disabilities. I don't know who's going to do it when you fire a quarter of the HHS workforce, and you haven't transferred the people who used to do it at the Department of Education anywhere. I had a roundtable with all of the education, with superintendents, board chairs, or representatives from all 15 localities that I represent. And I point blank asked them, because what the president says is, the other thing he says is, we're just gonna return responsibility and control for public education back to the states and the localities. Well, spoiler alert, they never lost it. But I asked them point blank, do you have the resources, the expertise, and what you need to pick up the responsibilities of making sure that all of the students with disabilities in your division have what they need to learn? And every single one of them said no. As soon as I'm standing here, neither does the Virginia Department of Education, which is why they needed a specialist from the Federal Department of Education. But again, the propaganda was the federal government shouldn't be in control of what our kids learn in school. They're not. They never were. They filled in gaps to make sure that state and local governments could give every child access to a good education. This is something I've been very vocal on. I wrote an op-ed for the Richmond Times-Dispatch about why we need the Department of Education and why all of this is wrong and the impacts that they're going to have. And Bobby Scott, who is chair, he's the ranking member of the Education and Workforce, is pushing back a lot on what they're doing in the Department of Education. But if he succeeds, then, the last Republican president passed a bill called No Child Left Behind. I'm like, well, now you're just leaving everybody. So this is an area I'm definitely focused on. I'm definitely pushing back on. I'm definitely working with our local school divisions to hear directly from them what they're losing and what that means in each of our schools, and I'm fighting back. All right, these are our last two questions. 9056. 9056. Okay. 9014. Yes. Don't be nervous.
My name is Lisa Wade. I just want to thank you for coming here and not hiding like the Republicans have. I want us to know that while you're fighting what seems like a losing battle, you are fighting for us.
I'll end where I started. Sorry, I just got emotional. It is the honor of a lifetime representing you all in Congress. As somebody who grew up watching Schoolhouse Rock, to now, sit on those steps. And it's hard. It's a hard job. It's a hard job, but I love it. And I love, being able to fight for you. I love meeting you. I love learning every nook and cranny of this district. The nerdy stuff, the hard stuff, the heavy stuff, the crazy stuff. I love it all. Because I know that at the end of the day, even if I didn't win the battle, I made somebody's life better. And sometimes I'm scared. Sometimes I'm scared that next January 4th, instead of celebrating 250 years of the most extraordinary human accomplishment of a government for the people, we're going to be mourning its loss. But if we work together, what did Benjamin Franklin say? When asked coming out of the Constitutional Convention, what have you wrought? He said, a republic, if you can keep it. And I believe in the American people, even when they let me down. And you don't, as a Black woman, I've been let down. Not just as Black. Every one of us in our lives, we've been let down by this country. But we love it. We love this country enough to want it to be better. We love this country enough to fight to make the idea of it a reality for everybody. That's why I do this job. But I can't do it without you. And many of you did the easy part by voting. I need you to help me do the hard part.
We'll fight for you.
Okay. I need you to not give up. I need you to not give up. I need you in the moments when you are scared, when you are angry, and you are ready to give up, and you say, we can't win this battle. I want you to dig a little bit deeper and say, this country is worth fighting for, and we have to come together to build community, even in the midst of chaos. And I'm gonna end on this. My biggest regret being in Congress is that I never got to work with John Lewis. I met him, but I didn't get to work with him. And in his final words to us, after he died in July of 2020, he said, democracy is not a state. It is an act that requires every generation to do its part to build the beloved community. Democracy in and of itself is not the goal, it is what we do with it. And if we come together and focus on community, and loving our neighbor, and even our enemy, we will build a beloved community that leaves no one behind. Do not lose faith in that dream. Do not lose faith in that dream. I won't. So come on that journey with me. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Congresswoman. And I know you heard her say earlier that she was not the only one invited, and she wasn't. We are Henrico County, NAACP. We service all of Henrico, and we have 2 congressional members in Henrico County. 4. And the first, Congressman Whitman. We got crickets from Congressman Whitman's office. But that's okay, because we're not gonna stop. We're gonna make sure he understands that him not answering us does not mean that he's off the hook, right? And if I can just get a real quick point of personal privilege, I would like the Henrico NAACP Executive Committee members and Henrico NAACP members to please stand while you're in here. And we have some up there. And right up there, you see that it is absolutely an honor to serve with these individuals. They fight every single day. Every single day we are fighting here in Henrico County to protect the civil rights of everyone here. We also have got our Youth in College, NAACP Youth in College Division is here. You are Youth in College. Thank you guys. You are the future. These are our future advocates. They are going to take this torch when we pass it. And I need all my Gen X. I need Gen X and elders to understand we will pass that torch to them. It will not be clutched like the jaws of death. Okay? All right. And lastly, I do also want to acknowledge that Delegate Mcclellan sent her representative here tonight. She could not attend, but she wants to make sure that everyone here knew that she absolutely is listening, paying attention, and she wanted to know and hear your concerns as well. So our elected officials are listening even when they can't be here. I just want to reiterate, if you do have a question, you wasn't able to ask it, please fill out the note card with your contact information. Your question will absolutely be answered. For Henrico NAACP, this is not an easy fight. We need more foot soldiers in this fight. Please, we have a table out here. Please, if you want to get in this fight with us, join our branch. Table out there. Because education, political action, criminal justice, religious affairs, armed services, economic justice, LGBTQ committee. I am missing some. Who am I missing, guys? Women in NAACP, labor, membership. I said armed services. I look right in that here. These are all the committees we have, and all the different ways that we are fighting to protect civil rights in Henrico County, at the local, state, and we also work with our national organization, state conference. The fight continues. It never stops. We never rest because we owe it to the community. So please join us. We have another event coming up Saturday at Marina High School. Clean Water Day for Environmental Justice Committee. We have an EJ committee. Tell me, we got a lot, right? We have flyers out there with information on it. Please come out, support the young people, support our branch. We have resource fairs. There will be a resource fair there as well. But lastly, our next general membership meeting will be May 6th at 7 o'clock at Hidden Creek Rec Center. Right here, right back here, right? It's not that far from here. Please join us in person, May 6th, 7 o'clock, Hidden Creek. We would love to have you there. Like I said, we are constantly engaging, giving updates, and doing the work. So, once again, thank you all for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. This is not over because the fight continues. Thank you.